Chris, you've got some pretty strong feelings about this. Do you think that national security is taking a backseat to profitability?
Well, I think that's the concern in the administration's decision to allow more AI chips to flow to China. Right now, the U.S. has a really commanding lead in the production of AI chips. That's been one of the key drivers of the U.S. leadership position in AI. That's why U.S. firms are out in front. And by selling more AI chips to China, it risks giving a shot in the arm to China's AI ecosystem.
China has had an interesting response to some of the chips that they've been allowed to purchase. The H20 chips, they basically said we don't want. And even in the instance of some of these chips, they're saying if Chinese companies want to buy these chips, they're going to have to make the argument to the government there why they're buying those chips instead of ones that are made domestically. What does that tell you?
I think the Chinese government is dead set on trying to build out its own fully self-sufficient domestic semiconductor ecosystem. It's been trying to build this up for now over a decade, and it believes that it can't rely and doesn't want to rely on the U.S. for cutting-edge technology. So in the short run, it's going to keep buying small volumes, maybe even medium-sized volumes of AI chips from the U.S. But the vision that she has, and the vision that the entire Chinese government has, is to be completely self-sufficient in everything that their computing and AI industry requires. And that means, first and foremost, the advanced AI chips they can't today make at home.
I mean, it's not that different than how we're feeling here in the United States. We don't want to rely on China for rare earths metals or anything else that we've come to rely on them over the years. Is it different when it comes to AI, to these chips in particular?
Well, I think the key difference is just the difficulty that China's had in making them. Today, China can produce relatively small volumes of AI chips. Best estimates are that the U.S. plus its partners in Korea and Taiwan are going to produce many, many times the number of AI chips that China can next year and for the foreseeable future. And so China's really struggled to ramp up its manufacturing here, which is why the government's pouring more money in every single year to try to build up its ecosystem. But it's also why the U.S. has a kind of unique advantage in this space, because there's not much that we can manufacture that China can't. But AI chips are a unique example of this, and they also happen to be this critical driver of technological progress, which is why I think we've got to be very careful when deciding which countries and which companies we sell these to.
Look, the H200 chips are not Blackwell. They're not the next level beyond Blackwell. Is that enough of a protection factor in terms of making sure we're not giving them our very best chips?
I think the question should be, what can China produce domestically and at what volume? If China can build something at home, there's no reason to stop our firms from selling that product to them.
Well, if they can build it at home, they're not going to buy ours.
Oh, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And the reason they want to buy these H200 chips is because they can't build enough at home. Exactly.
Well, okay, let me just go back and echo what the industry has said. Jensen Huang and many others in the industry who say, look, if we cede, if we don't sell these chips to them, it is going to force them to have to figure this out even more quickly. And we are going to no longer be the dominant player, not just in China, but beyond. We cede our world dominance if we start to pull back like this. What's your argument against that?
Well, I think that assumes that China is not going to try to become self-sufficient on its own. And the reality is, in every other sector of the economy, and including in even lower end chips, China is racing towards self-sufficiency. So there's, I think, no world in which we sell them a bit more and Chairman Xi decides, oh, I don't need to be self-sufficient in this product, despite that I've been trying to do so.
But they're getting some of those chips illegally through other countries anyway.
They're certainly getting some.
Can we really shut it off?
I think it would be unrealistic to think you're going to completely shut it off. But the fact that you've got big, successful Chinese tech firms relying on disassembling servers, smuggling them into China, reassembling them, shows how dependent they are.
I just wonder, how long can we maintain that sort of advantage that we have over them? With rare earths, it's probably going to take us 5 to 6 years to where we can get to be self-sufficient. How long will it take them, in any event, to become self-sufficient with semiconductors if they continue to pour so much money into it?
Nobody has a crystal ball and can say for certain. What we know is that right now, even in China, the most advanced chip-making facilities rely on chip-making tools that were imported from the U.S., from Japan, from the Netherlands before our controls were in place. So when you look across the chip technology stack, there's still a lot of dependencies China has on US or other imported Western technology. And it's going to take them time to figure out how to do all of that themselves.
As the market for the most potent and high-performing chips keeps growing, the company's GPU sales have skyrocketed. I believe the strong demand patterns we're seeing from consumers to businesses and governments will last for a very long time, since almost every organization in every field is at least considering how artificial intelligence might increase their efficiency. Naturally, the question is whether spending will eventually slow down, and how strong this rise will be in the end. The concern is whether or not consumers will eventually spend money on the newest and best next-generation chip, even though processors are becoming more and more powerful and have a replacement time horizon similar to that of smartphones and other technology. Additionally, there are genuine competitive risks to NVIDIA that should be taken into consideration, given the increasing number of cheaper alternative processors emerging from businesses like Alphabet. I am well aware of these challenges, and at the moment, I am more on the bearish end of the spectrum. Having said that, I thought it would be fascinating to examine the optimistic thesis surrounding NVIDIA and the reasons it might reach $300 per share, or a price of over $7.4 trillion in 2026. The bull case of NVIDIA. The bull on Wall Street is rushing ahead. Artificial intelligence. Your bull case is there. I'm kidding, but I'm serious. In the realm of artificial intelligence, NVIDIA is about as pure play as stocks come. The majority of modern LLMs and other AI applications are powered by the company's processors. NVIDIA's chips are used in applications and LLMs that are made in China as well as domestically in the United States. This is mostly due to the fact that NVIDIA's processors, ranging from its mid-tier chips to its most potent Blackwell GPUs, have positioned the firm for tremendous growth. Nearly every quarter, the company has outperformed even the most optimistic Wall Street analysts. This expansion may eventually slow, according to some people. Despite their belief that these launches will significantly boost their bottom lines, firms developing these applications do not have an infinite capital spending budget, and trees do not grow to the sky. However, given that NVIDIA's future Rubin architecture offers 3 times the potential performance of its Blackwell Ultra GPUs, which are already 50 times more powerful than the company's 2022 Hopper processors, I anticipate seeing a queue around the block for these chips when they are released. Financial statements with a stethoscope and calculator. I do believe that NVIDIA's forward price earnings multiple of about 24 times could be seen as being too low if we do witness the kind of early uptake in the form of orders and backlog for the company's upcoming Rubin chips. I still recall the times I believed NVIDIA would never be valued fairly or at a multiple that made sense. For those who continue to argue that NVIDIA is overpriced, I would advise them to examine the company's projected price-earnings ratio, compare it to the anticipated growth of its Rubin chips, and then make their own judgment. I don't think $300 per share is all that out of the ordinary if NVIDIA's growth rate can pick up speed in 2026 due to the introduction of this new technology. Everything is dependent upon the incoming numbers. However, my current base case is that NVIDIA's valuation will increase as a result of incredible earnings beats in the upcoming year. That is, assuming everything else is equal, which is impossible, isn't it? Bank of America reaffirmed its buy recommendation for the company, with a target price of $275. The company stated that it is sticking with the stock because of its dominant position in the networking and AI compute areas. Our $275 purchase order is based on 28x CY27E PEX cash, which is within NVIDIA's historical range of 25x 56x forward-year PE. We believe this is justified by NVIDIA's dominant position in rapidly expanding AI compute and networking markets, which is counterbalanced by the cyclical gaming market, lumpiness in global AI projects, and power access issues. Following rumors that U.S. President Donald Trump has approved NVIDIA's sale of its H200 AI processors to China, the stock has also recently been in the news. The updated clearance, which comes with a revenue-sharing obligation, was intended to stop China from speeding its own chip sector, even though the corporation was previously prohibited from exporting sophisticated AI chips to China. At the moment, Wall Street experts have unanimously recommended buying the stock. While the street high objective of $430 suggests an upside of 135.49%, the average price target of $250 shows a 36% upside. Investors in NVIDIA suffered during the trade battle with China. A year-to-date low of less than $87 per share was reached by shares in April. Similar to its fellow Magnificent Seven members, NVIDIA suffered from Chinese AI advancements as well as economic uncertainty surrounding the impact of tariffs. Due to adverse pressure from the overall market, NVIDIA's stock continued to decline. However, some investors continue to hold out hope for a long-term recovery, which appears to have been the case recently. As macro data improved and some tariff concerns subsided, the stock rose back to all-time highs, and NVIDIA became the first business with a $5 trillion market cap. However, the pessimistic view that dominated Wall Street at the beginning of this year has not completely vanished. While the causes behind NVIDIA's stock slide in the spring were real, the AI rebound may continue, but it is still speculative. NVIDIA might still be in a difficult position at the moment due to issues like being essentially shut out of China. Although we are unsure of the stock's future direction, we can make educated guesses using the available facts. This is what we are doing. Will NVIDIA remain at the forefront of AI? 1. Dominance of AI. Infrastructure. Thanks to its CUDA software ecosystem and H100, H200 GPUs, NVIDIA is thought to hold 80% of the market for AI accelerators. Customers of NVIDIA find it difficult to move to a different supplier. Because of this, the business has been able to dominate the market and consistently attract new clients. It is therefore in a strong position to benefit from the $400 billion AI chip market that is anticipated to rise by 2030. 2. Data center expansion. From $4.3 billion in Q1 2023 to over $35.6 billion in Q4 2024, its data center income has increased dramatically. As AI workloads increase dramatically, maintaining leadership in this field will need constant innovation in GPU architecture and energy efficiency. NVIDIA has accomplished that thus far. 3. Margin preservation. One of the main criticisms leveled at NVIDIA is that it would not be able to maintain its enormous margins when rivals overtake it and win over more of its clientele. This hasn't happened yet, and NVIDIA has done a good job of holding on to the market. Consequently, in Q4 of FY 2025, the company achieved industry-leading gross margins of 73%. 2030. NVIDIA stock price. Forecast, bull, bear, and baseline. Will it soar to new heights or plummet even lower? NVIDIA's stock price in 2030 is predicted by Wall Street to reach $491 per share in our bull case, $265 in our base case, and $38 in our bear case. In comparison to current levels, that would indicate rises of 171.4% and 46.5% and decreases of 79.0%, respectively. A particular scenario study of NVIDIA's business segments is the source of each of these estimations. NVIDIA's share price is on the rise. The following are the presumptions for our bull case. AI growth. At the moment, NVIDIA controls around 80% of the market for AI accelerators. According to analysts, CUDA's software moat and the uptake of Blackwell GPUs could sustain this dominance. This might enable data center revenue to increase from $115.2 billion in FY 2025 to $351 billion by 2030 at a 25% CAGR. Because there is little competition for premium AI training chips, gross margins could stay above 70%. Car and robotics. If Level 4 autonomy achieves even 15% to 20% penetration, car income can grow at a 50% CAGR to $25 billion by 2030. Software. CUDA is already a significant component of NVIDIA's moat, but if the AI story is successful in the long run, this might get even better. As developers start to rely on NVIDIA more, the company may switch to a SaaS model. If all of that revenue comes in and margins hold, $409 per share is feasible. With a net income of about $240 billion, the stock will still require investors to pay a 50x TTM earnings multiple. $12 trillion would be the market capitalization. Considering how much ground NVIDIA would need to cover, the chances of this occurring are rather slim. The NVIDIA share price base case. The following are the presumptions for our base case. AI expansion. By 2030, data center revenue might reach $230+ billion at a 15% CAGR. NVIDIA may do that if it maintains a 60% to 65% market share here, particularly if rivals continue to lag behind. Success of AI narratives. For NVIDIA to achieve our base case price of $241, the AI story would still need to be successful. Investors would swiftly reduce the growth premium to a discount if there was no growth. In the simplest scenario, NVIDIA would be worth $8.9 trillion. For a more thorough examination of our base case, we highly advise reading this share price forecast. The NVIDIA share price bear case. The significant difference between the basic case and the bear scenario may have caught your attention. This is mostly because the bear scenario makes the assumption that the AI story would not work. The outcome for NVIDIA and its stock would be disastrous if it occurred. The company's direct connection to AI and its future is the only factor contributing to the share's high price. Without it, its reputation will revert to that of a gaming GPU firm with a few connections to cryptocurrency mining. That scenario is unlikely, though. The demand for AI won't go away quickly. On the other hand, the advancement of AI can stall. NVIDIA would consequently slow down as well. For it to keep up its speed and high margins, it requires constant orders from hyperscalers and AI startups. Companies are also unlikely to upgrade their GPUs to whatever NVIDIA has to offer if AI slows down, and they are no longer willing to run large AI models at a loss. As a result, investors would no longer pay a growth premium for the stock. NVIDIA's margins would be destroyed, and sales growth would turn red. Given that NVIDIA would still be valued at $932 billion, $38 for such a scenario is plausible, if not a little extravagant. In any case, $241 is still our baseline for 2030. This explains why NVIDIA will reach $10 trillion and why AI is not a bubble.